Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Brooke and welcome back to my channel, and today's video is going to be a movie review. Happy Halloween! It is officially Halloween, October 31st, one of the best days of the year, and to celebrate this joyous, spooky day, I decided I'm going to give you a spoiler-free review of the newest installment in the Halloween franchise, Halloween. So I decided that I'm going to kind of keep the format that I use for my spoiler-free book reviews and apply that to my spoiler-free movie review. So I'm going to give you an overview, my rating, 3 pros, 3 cons, and my overall feelings about the movie. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to start with my overview. So if you don't know, this movie is set 40 years after the original and exists in a timeline where only the first movie exists. So basically the other 9 or so films did not happen. Where Halloween 1 leaves off is where the franchise leaves off as far as this movie goes. In this movie, Michael Myers is being transferred to another mental facility institution and he escapes, as I'm sure you could have guessed, and he escapes in a very Michael Myers fashion. And he proceeds to go on a murderous rampage on Halloween 2018, 40 years to the very day after his original killing spree. I gave this movie 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and we're gonna get into a little bit more about why I enjoyed it, but the problems I have with it right now. Moving into my 3 pros of this movie, the first pro is that there's tons of sly references. Well, some are pretty blatant, but some of them are sly to the original film, but it's really nice for fans of the franchise and of the first film to see. It was really entertaining to be like, oh, that's like in the first movie. Some examples include like the scene of the first movie where Michael's seen in the linens that are on the clothesline. There's also a similar scene to when Laurie's sitting in school in the first movie and she looks out and she sees Michael standing across the street. There's some parallel shots done in this movie that I think work really well and were really nice references to the original film. My second pro is the character development that we see within 2 characters, mainly Kate and Laurie. Kate is Laurie's daughter, who is kind of estranged from her because of the way Laurie's character has developed. So I'm going to talk about Laurie first. In the movie, Laurie suffers from a form of PTSD. She's very traumatized from the initial encounter with Michael, and it affects the majority of the plot and affected her entire life. She essentially becomes very closed off, paranoid, and is very prepared for anything that may come in her way, to be as vague as I possibly can. And this affected how she raised her daughter Kate, which I'll talk about a little bit later. While I hate that this PTSD is something that Laurie has to struggle with, I feel like it's very realistic and very true to life, because so many times in movies characters go through really horrible attacks and ordeals and they might show them struggling for a little bit, but then they go back to the way things were before all of their friends got murdered. And I feel like it's just super unrealistic, because having something like that happen to you is going to change you, and this essentially changed the entire development of her as a person and the way her life went. So I feel like the character development between first movie 1978 Laurie and 2018 post Michael Laurie was very well done and very realistic. Moving on to the second very well done character development is Laurie's daughter Kate. It's really hard to describe Kate's character development without spoiling aspects of the movie, but I feel like she has a pretty good change between the opening scenes and the final scenes. It was also something that added a lot to the movie and made it more than just a slasher flick. It has a lot to do with the relationship between Laurie and Kate, which has to do with Laurie's PTSD and her struggles from the initial attack with Michael. So I really can't go into a lot of it without spoiling some pretty awesome parts of the movie, but if you've seen the movie you'll definitely know what I'm talking about, and I think this character development was really well done. Pro 3 is there's some humorous aspects of the movie. It's really easy to get bogged down in the horror of the murderous Michael Myers, but this film had some aspects of comic relief which I found to be really refreshing and kind of gave you a reprieve from the intense murdering and horror that was going on and made the movie that much better. Okay, so moving on to my 3 cons. My first con is the post-credit scene. I'm not going to say anything about what that is, so no worries about spoilers, but I feel like the movie did not need that scene. It was unnecessary, and I think to use that scene to perpetuate anything dealing with the storyline would just do the movie dirty, in my opinion. That's very vague, but it's intended to be. And if you're watching this post seeing the movie, I think you will understand what I'm talking about. Con 2 is the situation in which Michael escapes. In the movie, Michael is being transferred to another institution, and I feel like it's pretty unrealistic and fairly stupid how he was transferred, which is where he makes his escape. As soon as the word transfer is mentioned, everybody knows that that is how he's going to make his escape. They simply put this like death-defying man on a bus with a bunch of other mentally ill people and 1 or 2 cops, and we're like, cool, he's going to be fine. He's not just going to be a good boy and await his fate at a much worse institution than the one he was at before. I'm sorry, but I feel like that's just a stretch, even for a horror movie. Plot-wise, it works, and I don't know how else they would make him have his escape, especially with the stigma and everything that seems to be in the town surrounding Michael. I just feel like the decision to put him on a bus with 2 cops and no other security measures, and with a bunch of other liabilities, you know, people that could possibly get murdered by this psychopath, just was not the best idea. Whoever did that, bad job. And my third con is that it was extremely gory. Yes, I know that it is a slasher flick, but I felt like some of it was just too extra. Like, it didn't need to be that explicit. I can handle blood, guts, whatever you throw at me, but there's just a scene or two where I just felt like it was really excessive, and the extent of the gore just wasn't really needed. For example, someone gets murdered in a very extremely violent way, and you see the aftermath and its gory glory, and it's returned to. Something about it felt really extra and a little unnecessary, and this is coming from someone, I love slasher movies. Like, I don't really flinch in the Saw franchise, which is known to be extremely bloody, gory, very intense. There's just something about putting this excessive gore within the Halloween franchise, which I feel like the first movie is not very explicitly gory. It's been a while since I watched it, so I could be entirely wrong, but I feel like it felt kind of out of place. If you've seen the movie and you have any opinions on the gore level, let me know, because I kind of wanted to discuss it with somebody, but I just felt like it was for the franchise and for the way that this has been done, especially with the first movie. I just don't feel like it was needed. I felt like that they just did it for shock factor, and it just wasn't really needed. That's just my opinion. Now, moving on to my overall feelings, I really enjoyed this movie. I am a huge fan of the original film and its many sequels. I feel like it really did the series justice, and I absolutely love Jamie Lee Curtis. She's such a versatile actor, and I just feel like she just made this movie. On a side note, there's a little boy that one of the characters, Vicky, is babysitting, and he is the absolute best. He made some of the scenes in this movie. It was great. As for the question, should fans of the original movie go see this one? Of course. And would I watch it again? Definitely. Sequels can get cheesy, but this one was pure gold. Alright you guys, and that was my spoiler-free review of Halloween 2018. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've seen the movie, let me know what your thoughts were, especially about my third con. I would like to discuss that with you. And if you haven't seen the movie, let me know if you're planning on going to see it. Anyways, I hope you have a happy Halloween with whatever you may be doing, whether you go out, stay in, whatever you may do. I hope it's great, and happy Halloween. Stay spooky, my friends. Bye.